Welcome to LegacyCast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is LegacyCast. Welcome, LegacyCast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you again from our happy little LegacyCast bunker here in Texas. Enjoying the summer heat immensely. Wishing we were somewhere cooler, which, ironically, my guests today are probably in a much better state of weather. They're coming to us from the state of California, Erik and Rebecca Casarez. I'm probably butchered his last name just now. But Erik, Rebecca, welcome to the program today.
Yeah, thanks, James. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Now, Erik and Rebecca, for our listeners here, they have a CPA firm there in California, handling people's finances, obviously, and navigating the wonderful world of taxation, which is something that I completely leave alone with my practice because I don't want to mess with that stuff. I don't do taxes or legal advice, but that's something that they can help you with. So they have a lot of expertise in that direction. And so it's good to have people out there. Erik also is a Army veteran, so you want to make sure I get those kudos to my Army brother. And so Erik and Rebecca, just sort of let it go your direction. As I was doing through the intro, or before the podcast actually, kind of explaining that with our program here at LegacyCast, we talk about legacy, but from a lot of different perspectives. Our guests here on the program will have different outlooks on it. And so for you guys, when you hear about legacy, what is it that comes to mind? What does that mean to you?
I think for me, the legacy that you want to leave behind is anything that won't leave you with regret at the end of your life. So anything that you want to leave as principal motivations for your children, your grandchildren, your inner circle of influence, making sure that you can, reach out and make your life count at the end of it.
Yeah. And when I think of legacy, I think of something that, lives on after you're gone, or, in this case, that lives on in your business after you're no longer in your business. And to me, I think that's important, maybe for others, when they start their business, that's not part of their consideration. But for us, that was a major part of consideration, is how are we building a structurally sound, and a solid foundation in our company that where over time it can continue to exist and continue to, be an asset, right, in this space, long after we've left the company.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, Erik, because that's one of the areas that so many, it seems, perhaps business owners, especially the entrepreneurs, we get so gung-ho and ready to start a business. We're excited. We have this great idea that's going to change the world. We jump into business, but we haven't thought about that stuff. We haven't thought about what are we going to do to make sure it lasts on, or what are we going to do if, and, fill in the blank. And so that then becomes, a stumbling block for business owners, and perhaps even for some of the people listening today. And so I'm glad that you mentioned that piece of it, that you're looking at it as it's not only while you had the business, but also when you pass that business to somebody else, so that it's strong enough to last on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're thinking about your business for both of you guys, how do you figure in your legacy, mindset, your legacy mindset into your business? When you're making business decisions, does that come into play as far as, this is going to impact us 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now?
Yeah, absolutely. We're big believers in sort of the long-term picture, right? The long game. And, one thing I like to look back on is the founder of Patagonia. And there's a great episode in another podcast called How I Built This. And he kind of goes through the history of how he started his company and why he started his company. And I look back at that a lot, because he was the guy that said, I want to have a company that lasts 100 years. And instead of making a ton of profit in the beginning, his focus was on having this unique quality about his product to where he will outlast his competitors because of the high quality. Mm-hmm. And now, I think we all know what Patagonia is, and they are a quality product, and they are doing great. And just there's other parts of his company that makes it such a desirable business to be a part of. And that's something that we looked at when we were starting our company is, do we want to be, a hit it and quit it kind of company, right? Like get in the space, grow as fast as we can and see what happens? Or do we want to build an actual quality product that over time will be like a Patagonia in their space?
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, you can treat business like an object, but I think that without seeming kind of weird, we're creating a living, breathing thing that, like we talked about earlier, is going to continue on without us. And it takes a lot of intentionality to breathe life into this. So for us, Eric's got kind of a motto that he lives by, which is on human level, basically making sure that everything he does is reaching that human level with all the people in his influence. And mine is on purpose, making sure that with every step we move forward, it's with intentionality and everything is for a reason. We're not just willy-nilly trying to throw something together as quickly as possible. It's looking down the road 5-10 years and saying, how are employees going to benefit? How are we going to benefit? How are clients going to benefit? The local community. So it is very much on purpose.
Yeah, and I love what both of you have said, because both of those concepts and philosophies are certainly something that I am in tune with. Making sure that we certainly do everything, like Eric's mantra is on the human level. Person by person, each thing is going to be very unique per person that we're dealing with, and nothing can be cookie cutter if it's going to be lasting. And so everything is done, to help, what those needs are. And then what yours also, Rebecca, that we're able to just create something that really does have that purpose and intentionality, the deliberate plan that's put into place, because all of those things are necessary and very important.
Absolutely.
So when you're correlating things into your business, like you had those particular, I guess you could say, sort of your mission statements of a sort, how do you incorporate your different legacy concepts into your business, though?
So when we thought about starting this company in the beginning, it was, okay, CPA firm, accounting, taxes, those kind of things. This is not a new thing, right? We're coming into a saturated market. And so A, why are we starting a company in a saturated market? And then B, what's the purpose of that? And, so the why is based on our experiences. I owned a business before. She worked in public accounting, and we saw these kind of, we saw how businesses and business owners or startups and startup founders, we felt like they weren't getting services from this industry the way they should be getting them. And the accounting industry is a very much 100-year-old industry where the companies still operate the same way. They've been doing the same things. They've been offering the same services for the last 100 years. Nothing has really changed. It's a very traditional service, and it's kind of expected that way. And it's sort of one of those things where if you start a business, it's like, well, I have to go and pay this person because that's just the way it is. I have to do my taxes. That's just the way it is. And in all reality, for the partners or the firm owners, why change it? Because it's not broken. The accounting industry is the highest profit margin industry in the entire country year after year. So it makes money. So really, to a lot of these companies and firms out there, why would they change and innovate? Because they're doing well. And so for us, we looked at it from a different point of view of, we want to innovate and change this industry, because even though the firms are doing well, the clients can be doing better. the clients can be getting a better service so that they can succeed and their companies can be more successful. Because we felt like at this moment, the way these services are being offered wasn't necessarily geared towards the success of the client. It was more geared towards the success of the firms and the firm partners.
Right. And that's something also that I see in my side of the equation, from the financial planning side of it, is that there's for the listeners here, there's kind of two worlds. You have the fiduciaries and the non-fiduciaries in the world, and effectively what that means is the fiduciary is doing something in your best interest, the non-fiduciary is doing it in their own best interest. So it's are you doing it for the client or are you doing it for the business? And it's the same in my world, that there's so many, and perhaps even has given a bad flavor, to some people, that they don't want to go to someone in the financial sectors because maybe they're a crook, or are they really just going to take their money and not give them the return that they're wanting, and not really get what they're expecting. And I love that you're wanting to create something different, because that's very important. It's important that there are people that are out there doing what you're doing, and offering a service that it's really built around the person that's walking through the door, not the person that's sitting behind the desk. It's about the person's needs, and putting their needs first. And I just love that, because what that also means is you're also putting the financial aspect first for the client, and not for yourself. You're making less money so that they can make more money. Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking about your business and its future from like the CEO standpoint for a moment, what are the things that sort of bother you about your particular industry that you're in, maybe even keeping you up at night, as it were? Or are there some things that sort of keep you tossing and turning?
I don't know about tossing and turning, but I think there's two things that are, if you could say, kind of our competitor mindsets, if you will. Mm-hmm. And those two things are, you have the automated, techie side of our industry, right? It's how do we take your job or your expertise and automate it and make it a, AI or a software that's very high volume, very cheap, and that can do the job of all these industry professionals. So there's that. And then you have just the old school, right? The old school traditional giants who, they have large marketing budgets, and they have large track records, long history, well-known, known brands. And people are just going to do what they tell them because of those reasons, right? They're well-known. And so for us, it's interesting because you look at both these cases, we're here in San Francisco. And so obviously, we see a lot of the tech stuff, right? And everybody wants things automated. And what's really interesting is when people go that route, they really lose that expertise, that advisor. They really lose that quality. The second a founder goes into a boardroom and the board of directors want answers, your automated, high-speed techie software isn't going to spit out those answers because it's just that, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the point where, there's the balance that we ride as a company is, we want to offer very innovative services in the way that we deliver our products, but we don't want to become detached from our products.
You don't
and
want
our
to lose
services.
the human touch.
Sure.
We want to maintain that high touch. We want to maintain a low volume client count so that we can be high touch and we can be an asset to them throughout their journey as a business owner or a founder.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other side of that is on the employee side, that really it keeps me up at night a little bit. I mean, I don't think either of us have problems sleeping, but it's the fact that in the industry, a lot of technicians, accounting technicians are overworked, underpaid, undervalued, undertrained, because it's such a dog-eat-dog world. So you'll come in undergrad as an intern somewhere, and you'll have very little training to give you success, because if I show up and he's supposed to be my peer, well, he's vying for partnership or for promotion, so he can't help me succeed, and vice versa. So it's a very troubling situation, because what you end up having are undertrained professionals that can't deliver quality service. They're not valued, so their morale is low, and then there's high turnover. So that was the second problem that we were really looking to solve while starting this, is one, for the clients, the small businesses and the startups, and two, for our employees, so that when they show up, they want to work. It's not just a tick on their resume. They actually really want to stay with us.
Yeah, that's one of the things. If you ask somebody that's coming out of their education and they're going into like a Big Four accounting firm, and you ask them about it, they'll say, unless they haven't experienced this yet, but they'll say, yeah, I want to go there. I want to work there. I want to get that on my resume bullet, but I don't want to be there longer than I have to. I will suck it up for a couple of years and I'll get the heck out of there. Mm-hmm. And to me, I hear that and I'm like, that sucks. Like, if I was a business owner, which I am, and I had people coming up to me and saying, I want to work for you just to put that on my resume. But I actually hate working for you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go work for somebody fun afterwards. Like, that's not what I want to hear, and that's not the type of culture that should be in this industry. So that's something that is one of it's just as important as our first kind of primary goal. Mm-hmm. And I feel like if you can treat your employees well, and they have an environment that they want to be in and they want to excel in and they enjoy, then they're going to create the quality service, which is then in turn going to make your client successful.
You're absolutely right, and that's one of the things that I do a lot of talking with business owners about, is just what you're mentioning there, is the culture that they have within the business, and what are they doing for the employees to keep them around. Because industry average, I think right now, is about 3 years staying with the company, between 2 and 3 years, and then they move on to somebody else. And look at all of the expense that the company can put into trying to train and equip that employee, just for them to leave and go to their competition. And that really is the bottom line of what they're doing, is they're leaving you. They leave you and they go to your competition. And so, like Richard Branson said, that the founder of Virgin Airlines, is that he wants to train people and they stay. He wants to take people that are going to stay with him, not just train them and they leave. Mm-hmm. So I would much rather have somebody that has no education. I train them for what I need, and then they stay with me because I give them what they need, and I satisfy their lifestyle, and give them really that opportunity to themselves build a legacy.
Yeah,
that's much more important.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as far as on the strategy topic, do you believe that other people, obviously the listeners that we have here, do you believe that they should be, both on a personal and business level, putting together some sort of strategy for their own success? Or do you think they should kind of fly by the seat of their pants like so many people do?
So, I mean, in a way, I feel like that's a trick question, right? So
it is. Yeah.
I have this philosophy, if you will. I call it the 5 priorities of leadership, and that's just how I call it. But it could be, just in general priorities. But I feel like as a business owner, and this is really strictly in my opinion for business owners, is you have to prioritize not only what you do at work, but everything in your life. And so I feel, in my opinion, that the most successful leaders, they have these layers of priorities, and it starts with your family. And I feel like the number one most important thing in your life should be your family. Or if you don't, if you're not married and have kids, it should be, right, a person in your life that you love, right? And then after that, this is how I view it anyways. It's your family, and then it's your team. So the team in your business is your second priority. And then after the team in your business, it's your actual product, your service as a company. That's your third priority. Then the fourth is your business, your strategic relationships, things of that nature. And then the fifth would be your hobby. And so I feel like with this approach, with these priorities, as a business owner, you should be prioritizing, like you should be spending time with your children, with your wife, right, your spouse. You should be spending time with those you love. You should be allocating and and making that priority over everything.
Mm-hmm.
That like, you got to maintain that. You got to be a human. You've got to be the dad. You've got to focus on those things. Those are important. And it's a key part of just your personal life. And then when it comes to your business, I think a lot of people screw this up. They value their services and their businesses and their products over their people. And that's why I put people first. It's like, if you're looking at this as a priority list throughout your day, it's like, what did you do for your family today? Then what did you do for your people? Right? And then what did you do for your business and product? And if you're working on your business and product, but you haven't done anything for your people, do that first, right? Go talk to them, have a conversation, see how they're doing, right? Make sure there's something you're doing for the people in your company first. Obviously focus on your business, focus on strategic relationships. Why are you out networking if you don't even have a product to sell? That's the way I view it. If your product sucks, your service sucks, then there's no reason to be building your strategic relationships yet. And, I know other people have different opinions on that. That's just my opinion, right? So if you focus some time today on your business, making your product better or your service better or putting attention into your company, then, there's no problem, right? Focusing on that relationship, that strategic partnership. And then I feel everybody should allocate a little bit of time for a personal hobby to get away from everything, right? Just push out, stop thinking about work, stop thinking about everything else, put your frustrations aside or whatever's going on. And everyone should have a hobby, whether it's going out to the range and shooting a gun, right? Going snowboarding or riding your bike or, whatever it is, watching a movie, I don't know, playing video games. Yeah. Like whatever that is for somebody that you should be able to answer that question. What's your hobby? Like, what do you do for fun? And your answer really shouldn't be running my business. It's like, okay, like, right. You need something in your life to get away from your business. You have to. And sometimes that may even be the moment where you come up with the best ideas for your business.
Yeah. When you're relaxed. Mm-hmm.
But that's my long-winded answer to your question. It's my kind of holistic approach to that personal and business kind of life.
And the thing too is for some personalities, to caveat that, you need to take action. So you can prepare and strategize and, plan and go over and over and over again. And for some analytical mind, they have a tendency to not take action. So flying by the seat of your pants, I don't necessarily advise, but I definitely think that you should take risks and attempt and try and make sure that you're not having, analysis paralysis and just sitting around saying all these ideas and just never doing anything. Because a lot of times with entrepreneurship, it's taking stabs in the dark on purpose and trying to get to a goal and then adjusting and pivoting until you finally do reach where you're trying to go. So I just wanted to say that too.
No, I love it. Yeah, I agree with both of you because that it is so important. And like you were saying, Eric, that starting with the family first because family is everything. In my world, it's faith, family, then finance. That's kind of my way of laying it out. But family should definitely come before the business. And then you're talking about kind of when you wrap it up and you have the hobbies, it gives you another opportunity to bring the family back in again, because that is your source. Your family and your faith are your source, and it's your energy. It's what gives you the purpose and motivation in doing everything else. So by all means, should you not feed that the most? So I love how you put that.
Yeah, it's an easy test. I mean, there's a I forget the guy's name, right? They talk about the Japanese guy that worked in Toyota and how he had the simple test. It was the 5 whys. Somebody gives you an answer and you ask them why, and you narrow it down after asking why 5 times, and then now you have your kind of understanding or your solution to the problem. And I view it kind of the same way. If you work your way backwards, it's like, okay, now you're setting up like a shooting range to go shooting. Well, have you done something strategically, like built a relationship for your business today, or set something in motion? Okay, now if you're doing that, have you done something in your business to develop your product, make it better, or whatever it is? Okay, then if you've done that, have you, right? And you can work your way back into, have you taken care of the people in your company? Have you taken care of your team members? Do you know what's going on in their lives? Like, does somebody have a bad day? Like, why? Right? And then you can keep backing yourself up. Well, have you scheduled, are you going to go see your son's soccer game tonight? Because that's kind of important, And so that's kind of like an easy way just to test yourself if you think maybe this is an area that you're struggling in, or there's little areas you're struggling in like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, spot on. Good advice. And, that's gold nuggets for people listening in today that, apply those things to your life, because, it is going to make a difference when you do things in the right order with the right priority list. Now, for some of the starting up entrepreneurs, what would you say, just from your experience, that most of the entrepreneurs are either failing or giving up?
The reason why they might be failing and giving up, or what do you mean?
Correct. Right. The reasons behind it.
I think honestly, fear is the biggest factor when it comes to failing and giving up. We are not taught to accept failure easily. We as Americans tend to run from conflict or hardship, and working and striving through complicated life cycles is not something that we do well. So I think that early stage entrepreneurs, they don't have the clarity to realize that it's going to be tough. And just because it's tough doesn't mean it's wrong. It means that you're fighting an uphill battle to get to the top of the mountain. And you can't get to that top of the mountain without hiking and sweating and working and breathing hard and, watching everybody else, mock you for working so hard when they're so comfortable in the valley. So I think that that's honestly the biggest reason why they give up. It's not the product, it's not the service, it's because they realize it's hard work and it's not worth it to them, or fear of failure and so on.
Yeah. And, you can always peel the onion on that one. There's, I guess, different outlooks on it. It's some people have the outlook like, well, if you just last longer than 5 years, you'll be ahead of the pack. Right? Most businesses fail in under 5 years. That's one outlook. The other, and that can apply to anything. Mm-hmm. Well, shoot, why am I overweight? Well, when was the last time you worked out? When was the last time you worked out consistently?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I feel like there's certain universal principles that you can apply in different areas of your life. Well, if you just ate healthy and worked out 365 days a year for 5 years in a row, you would look fantastic. Well, if you worked on your business, right, consistently 365 days a year, 5 years in a row, you'd probably be doing just fine. But then you can peel that onion back a little bit further, right? It's, well, did you even ask your clients if this is something they want, or your users? Are you doing something that people actually want to buy? Or is it just a good idea? Right. And so you can always peel that back and get a little bit more specific, but overall, I think high level, it's really consistency is the first stop. You need to be able to dedicate yourself to one thing consistently. I know a lot of people it's kind of sexy to be this entrepreneur of multiple things. Like, oh, I do
serial entrepreneur.
Yeah, I do cars, and then I do tech, and then I'm a software engineer, and then I do this and I do that, and I'm so cool. And it's like, well, I think it would be cooler to have one of those be successful.
Yeah. And the thing too is, I think, obviously everyone knows statistic about how most businesses fail due to lack of capital, lack of cash or whatever. I actually don't agree with that. I really don't. I think that there's so many successful stories of businesses starting from literally nothing, bootstrapping their way through success, and,
sure,
innovating into hard areas where they use what limited capital they have, and they creatively make this amazing business that's profitable from, day one. So I don't think that it's a cash flow issue. I don't think it's a capital issue. I think it may be a cash management issue. I think we're not taught as well in America how to handle finances, how to budget, how to balance checkbook, what a debit and credit is. The basics of financial literacy is astounding here in America, and that's definitely something that we're hoping to change, at least what we can. So that is just something that they should look into.
Well, and I just want to add one more thing, and this is something that you get from younger startup founders, is they want everyone to sign NDAs. Mm-hmm. Right. And they're like, well, I can't talk to you unless you sign an NDA. And I can't talk to a possible investor unless they sign an NDA. And typically investors will say, I'm not going to talk to you if you ask me to sign an NDA anyways. Right. Like we're past that. And what they don't understand is, and here's how I say it, like blunt to their face. It's like, look, if you tell me your idea and then I go out and make that idea happen into a successful company, I deserve it. Like I deserve that win. because I worked harder than you on your idea. Like if you can't work hard enough on your idea to make it successful, and someone else who's got other obligations in another job and he does, then he deserves it. Yeah. You should be able to work so hard on your idea that nobody can keep up.
And even with enterprise level companies, I think a lot of times we fear the big guy is going to come and steal our idea, our product, our service, and we will no longer be viable. It is so difficult for big established companies to move and pivot and be innovative. It's very difficult, if not impossible. Sure. So for the young companies that they're so flexible, they have the ability to adapt and change quickly. Again, to Erik's point, I wouldn't be afraid of, reaching out and discussing and trying to come up and improve where you're at as a company.
Yeah, spot on. Both of you, spot on. And to that point, there's so many of those small businesses that like you were saying, Erik, that do require that non-disclosure agreement before they even talk to somebody. And masterminds are such a huge resource. And why wouldn't you want to take advantage of the experience and expertise of a room full of other entrepreneurs and other business owners to take advantage of that for your own betterment and to be able to push your idea further? Because if you're not hustling enough to get your idea to market, and then somebody else beats you to the punch, like you said, Erik, sorry, but you sat on your hands too long. So it's I totally understand that one.
Yeah.
Now, as far as roadblocks and then also some resources, there's obviously roadblocks that we have to look out for when we're doing a business. So what are some of those that the two of you have come across and overcome, and then also resources that you tapped into to be able to grow your business?
Roadblocks, what would you think?
I think a big roadblock in any business is the partnership that you have with your founders and your first team members that you take on. And the reason why I say it's a roadblock is that you have to realize that you need to work and be very intentional with the relationships that you build. I think that there's a reason why VCs and angel investors won't really invest if you're a solo founder. It's because it really does take a team to build up and make something great. And Erik and I are married. We've been married 11 years tomorrow, actually. And
congratulations.
Thank you. And we did not take it lightly coming into business together. I was on my own for I think half a year before we realized to partner up, and we had deep conversations about it. And the first 6 months after we became partners in the business, we had a lot of stumbling blocks, a lot of discussions of personal versus business and how to go through those conflicts. So I think that, and then even hiring first employees, making sure that they're valued and that you can handle those types of operations, you have to realize that those can be massive roadblocks, and figuring out that you don't necessarily need to go around them, but you really do need to kind of go through them.
Yeah, I mean,
that's for us personally, at least.
Partnership fallouts are a huge percentage of failed companies. So making sure you're in business with the right person. And if you're not, identify that early and deal with it. Either deal with it and fix it or move on. Don't waste your time with a poisonous partner. That it'll just drain your life and your money, right, and your time. And then the employee thing, like she said, I mean, we spent a year interviewing candidates for a full charge bookkeeper. And I went through tons of people and interviews and resumes, because we know that your first employees or your first, your early members of your team are critical, that they're good. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people will hire like the first person they find or the first person they meet, or in some cases, some companies, they just need people and they just kind of
bodies to fill.
They need bodies to fill the spaces. And then, unfortunately, I think that can be a major obstacle down the road.
Sure. And when you're talking about the business partners, that's such a valuable point that you're making, Erik, because there's a lot of strategy that should be happening behind the scenes when you're doing that partnership. I love the fact that you as a married couple are able to run a business, because that's not the case for a lot of people. They maybe spouses are not able to work together, and so kudos for being able to pull that one off, because you're in the minority on that one already. But also with business partners is making sure that you have put into place that strategy behind the scenes, to where what if one of those partners leaves their position, either by choice or by sickness, injury, or the inevitable. Making sure you have that exit already figured out, because that's going to be one of those things that can bankrupt your business, is not having that stuff figured out up front. Mm-hmm. And then obviously if something happens to one of those partners on the most tragic end of the scale, you're going to be working with that person's spouse. So that then brings in that first point I was mentioning, to where can those partners work with that person's spouse? Chances are no. Yeah. And so, or that person's kids that steps in. Can you work with those children? Because you never worked with them before. You didn't have a relationship. And so, it's something that you really have to think about, because, any business that doesn't do that is just asking for trouble.
Yeah. And then you just touched on those priorities we talked about earlier. If you don't know those kids, the spouse, or any other parts of your team members or your partner's personal lives, you're already messing up. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Right? Now you've made two ultimate sins, right? You haven't paid attention to your team members, and you haven't been cultivating that relationship with your partners.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Yeah.
So now this is kind of an interesting question that I like to ask people, and that comes down to your value systems and sort of your belief systems. How do you incorporate that into your business? Because obviously we do have to put a lot of ourselves and our unique flavor into our companies, but some people feel like there's sort of an extent to where I can only put this much of it in, whereas on the other hand, I put everything in, including my faith, that people know exactly where I stand when they walk through the door. What do you guys do?
Yeah, and I think that's different for everybody. Absolutely, right. And I don't know if there's a wrong or right answer. For us, we just have our answer for that, right?
Sure.
And the main thing is, I can give you good examples, right? I use Airbnb to stay places. I'll use Uber or Lyft to take rides. I use Airbnb and Uber and Lyft specifically for what they're used for. So when I get politically charged emails from Uber, Lyft, and Airbnb, it's confusing to me. It's, if I wanted my political news, I would sign up for a newsletter from Fox or CNN or whoever, right?
Even if it's within line with what we believe, right? So it's not like we are, people of faith as well. And I think that it's the foundation of how we treat morally our, like I said, our circle of influence. However, we're politically neutral and religiously neutral in the workplace, and that's what we expect from our team members as well, for that reason.
Well, and that to me, everyone's got their own reasons, but to me, it's like, look, you've just separated 50% of your workforce. Now you have 50% of your workforce who is excited that you did that, and the other 50% feel like they don't belong in your company anymore, mm-hmm. or even your user base. And I feel like it's very divisive when you start going down that route, because now I think it's unnecessary for us. Our business and our industry isn't in religion. It's not in political space. Like, that's not areas that we operate in. So those are also areas that we don't, fall one side or the other as a business. It just doesn't help. If it doesn't help our clients be successful and our employees, love where they work and want to be there longer, then it's not necessary.
Yeah. And like, to that point too, I mean, you could take Chick-fil-A, for example, obviously a faith-based, run organization, but I think the difference is they close on Sundays due to what their founders believe to be right according to their faith, but they're also not like necessarily giving out propaganda and stuff like that. So they've chosen to have a political or religious front, but I don't know. It's just, for us, we choose to be neutral.
Yeah, good answer. So what's something that you guys wish you had done earlier in life that you didn't do? I like to always ask that a little bit there.
That's such a tricky question because I started my education a little bit later. I went back to school for my bachelor's, my master's at the age of 24 or 5, something like that. I forget now.
So just a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. So yesterday, actually. And then Eric, is going back to school now as well. And we could always we should have started earlier. We should have started investing when we were younger. We should have, taken his deployment money and pushed it into some sort of retirement vehicle or business venture. But honestly, I can't, if I change one thing, I change where I ended up. And I don't like thinking like that. One, I can't change it. So it's a little bit depressing to think like that. But two, everything I've learned has made me a better person, a better business owner, a more relatable person. I think that the fact that we started this business now has made us understand business owners because we've gone through the struggle, as well as relate to the financial hardship, because it's not like we had, the finances like thrown away at the age of 2, which some people end up doing. So I can't say that I would change anything, long story short. Yeah.
I would say that, for example, if I would have stayed in the military longer, I would have had some more regrets. If I would not have met her at the school we went to, I would have regrets that I don't have this life. So I look at it that way. I'm pretty thankful for the decisions that were made that led up to this point, because I really enjoy where I'm at now. I'm kind of in that fun area where this is what I was looking forward to when I decided to get out of the military. Like, this is what I envisioned when I was in Afghanistan, thinking, okay, maybe this is my last deployment. What are the benefits of getting out? Why would I get out? And I think right now we're living that life. So I actually am glad that we've made the choices we've made.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many people don't answer that one as what I would deem, the correct answer. But you guys nailed it. So, awesome there. Oh, and kudos to you, Eric, for answering correctly the part of it was only a couple of years that since she went back to school and got all of that, because that is the correct answer. that is the brownie point answer. So yeah, double kudos there.
That's right.
So this one's kind of might be a little bit more slanted towards Eric. So what hurdles did you have to face personally when you're transitioning out of the service, and then when you're going into the entrepreneurship direction after that?
Yeah. So
what kind of hurdles did you run into?
And that's really good. And I would like to say I'm thankful that I have my brother. He was an infantryman in Ranger Battalion in the 90s. And he got out in the late 90s and did the corporate ladder gig, right? So he has a very successful career on the corporate side. And so when I told him I was thinking about getting out, he started telling me certain things, not a lot, but he started telling me one of the main things you need to work on is communication. He said, you have to learn how to talk to people in the civilian world because it's a totally different ballgame, And then, so that was key for me. The other key thing, which sounds kind of silly, but is learning how to dress, right? I didn't know how to wear clothes properly. You're in the military, you either wear uniform or you're in like workout clothes, right? And maybe that's cool for some people still doing whatever they do, but being in a professional environment, I didn't know how to dress professionally at all. And so those things were kind of key getting out. But for me, I don't think I could have gone into a job. Being a Green Beret, I think set me up with the entrepreneurial mindset anyways. So I immediately, it's the second I started thinking I was getting out, I started running the business with my dad. So I immediately went into kind of doing entrepreneurial stuff. But yeah, the transitional hurdles getting out, I think with me, along with most people is, or in my shoes, I should say, I didn't have a transferable career set. Right. So it was, what can I do when I get out? Like, how do my skills transfer? I was a door kicker for 10 years, right? I was an infantryman in a Green Beret. That's what I did. I shot guns and freaking jumped out of planes or whatever. Right. So if I want to be a cop, my options are be a cop, do government contracting, or consult in government stuff. It's just, these were the reasons I got out of the military. I didn't want to do that. And so I would say what I learned, especially now where I'm at, what I've learned is the skills that transfer over are so valuable that a lot of us, a lot of transitioning veterans don't see it. But if you go into a startup company with a bunch of young, really intelligent, technical founders who don't know squat, they don't know anything about leading people, completing objectives, developing a packet, and organizing a team to go and accomplish a mission. All they know is this quality product, and then a lot of times they just suck at everything else. So a transitioning veteran like me can be a very valuable asset to a company.
Yeah, excellent. Now, when you guys were starting up the business, was it kind of obvious how to overcome some of those struggles that you came across, or did you sort of stumble upon that answer over time?
I think it was. We're really lucky to. I don't want to sound really like kind of cliche, but we are really lucky to have each other because we are so different. I'm a CPA, I'm a technician, he's not. So we obviously don't compete for the same position in the company. He brings his strengths and I bring mine, and we complement each other. The obstacles that we ran into early on and still, are working to overcome, it's more of the line of making sure that we continually respect each other and fine tune our communication skills. So both spoken and non-spoken. And,
Sure.
it's crucial to be able to cue when one person is going through something and then come in to either the rescue or to complement what they're doing or to aid in some way. So I think that for us, the obstacle of clashing and having a solid partnership is really just making sure that we're constantly respecting and hearing what the other person is, going through.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and on that note, here's my 2 cents is ladies communicate better. Men can sit all day long and say absolutely nothing, and they're still happy. With ladies, there's that communication that's necessary to be happy in a relationship. So there's my relationship 2 cents for the day.
More.
Yeah, you can put 2 guys next to each other fishing all day. They won't say 2 words at all, and they have a great time. And we go back and our ladies will be like, so what'd you talk about? Nothing.
But here's the flip side to that. Here's the flip side of that equation is you'd have the 2 guys fishing that aren't talking and they caught 10 fish, and you have 2 ladies on a boat fishing and they're talking the whole time and they didn't catch anything. So, that's
so true.
That's where the relationship comes in, because it's like, that's great that we talked about it all day, so let's go do it. Right?
And that's what I was saying. I think that in marriage and in partnerships in business, that's so funny. We have to realize that we're not capable of doing it on our own. I can't be so arrogant and prideful and up on my pedestal thinking that a woman entrepreneur is the best thing since sliced bread, and he can't either from his perspective. Like he mentioned, we wouldn't do anything if we were fishing because I'd just be complimenting the colorful little worms or whatever they are. I think that there is a point where we have to work together and recognize the strengths and weaknesses and help each other to that mission.
Yeah, it's great to actually see how y'all's relationship works just in this podcast here, because there's so few people that can actually run a business and have that friendly mentoring back and forth and the joking, but still come to the table eye to eye with complete respect. So
yeah,
hats off to that one.
It takes a lot of work.
No,
we have to be able to laugh at each other.
Well, and it's funny because we always tell people, we get people that say the same thing, right? And they ask for advice or whatnot. And we always tell them the same thing. Don't do it. Don't do what we did. Don't get married young like we did. Don't have kids early age like we did. Don't join the military and deploy when all your kids are little like we did. Don't start a business together out of the military like we did. I feel like somehow it works for us, or we've made it work. But I'm sure and I'm sure other people listening know that all those little things I just mentioned are like a recipe for disaster.
But it's the reason why we can do a business together is because we did all that and we came out on the other end okay. And, it wasn't always the case for us. Early marriage, we were doomed for failure had we both not realized that I think it was like year 3 or 4, we both looked at each other, terrible like relationship. We weren't communicating. We weren't respecting. As most marriages, you go, who the hell did I marry? Who is this person on both ends? And we looked at each other and realized we are more committed to our marriage than we are to the person. And so when he's not, living to my fantasy image and I'm not to his, we realize that we are committed to what we built together and not necessarily the person. And it's the same thing with our business.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. And again, for the record, Erik gives the correct answer.
Smart man. I don't think he got me an anniversary present. I think this is it.
Oh dear. I'm going to leave that one alone and move on to our next question.
So actually, who mentioned it? One of you guys mentioned the anniversary tomorrow. So that was a surprise.
That was me.
Oh.
Yes, James is a smart man and knows when to leave that question alone. So as far as for the two of you guys, what would you say your greatest strength is in character strengths, I guess?
Should we answer for each other? Greatest strength. I think a lot of women are like this, but I'll just say that I am. Without seeming like I'm being super arrogant about it, I am very good at sensing the room and very good at understanding a person's current status and emotional health and where they're sitting just by being in a room with them. And so I'm able to pick up cues and start and stop conversations and be very socially aware of what's going on. And I think that that's benefited me personally and professionally.
And so for the military guys listening, what she just defined was situational awareness.
The difference between me talking about 5 sentences and 2 words.
Yeah, I was right there with her. I was like, yep.
It sounds better when I say it.
It did. It was, a lot more colorful and more beautiful words, and then we have the grunt response of situation where.
Yeah, I would have to say, my strengths are attention to detail. Like the anniversary tomorrow.
Yeah, I definitely have planned, right?
No, that's strength. I think would be something, and once again, I think it's something I pulled from being in the military, at least doing the Green Beret thing, is what we've coined the human level stuff. And so I guess a better way to explain that is I get asked a lot from people how I do business development, and the way I explain it is if I go to I don't know, the sales gurus out here are not going to like my answer. When I go out to a networking event, if I meet one person and end up talking to one person the entire time, I am totally cool with that. I very much enjoy getting to know people, getting to talk to them, getting kind of a down-to-earth conversation, learning about their life story and whatnot as much as I can. It's something that I actually like. I like getting to know people for who they are, not necessarily for the service or product they provide. And I feel like for me, it's an interesting question because it's why did you get out of the military? And for me, I have the ability now to actually enjoy my life. I have the ability to like wake up every day and be like, I'm my own person. I can do whatever the heck I want. And I want to be happy. And that, in a way, that kind of is a selfish thing that makes me happy, is just talking to people and not be worrying about, oh, did I make a sale today? Or, oh, I have to talk to 30 people in this category. I have to look over everyone's shoulder and treat everyone like a bunch of turds just so I can meet the right person. Like, I don't like that kind of stuff. So for me, I feel like it's a strength, but also it's a strength because it makes me happy, and it's worked, in regards to developing key partnerships for our business and good relationships. And then clients come from just being a human being.
Mm-hmm. No, spot on. So, you probably expect what the next question is. What's your greatest weakness?
I think, and Eric will agree, that I always think I'm right. And I mostly am always right, but there have been on occasion instances where I may have been wrong. And I have a hard time admitting that and seeing that, because I'm very analytical and I'm very thoughtful with everything that I'm doing. So when I make a decision or I've thought something through and I've got an opinion about it, it's because I've had this history that brought me to this point. So it's not like I'm just willy-nilly like throwing things out there like, oh, I just think this. You know, I have a foundation for it. So when Eric doesn't agree with me or somebody else, you know, there's this tension, I have a hard time letting that go. That was my way of saying I'm not always right, but I probably am because I'm smart. that's my weakness.
So smart.
Oh.
And I love the fact that when she was saying that she, on a few occasions, may have been, you know, so it's still leaving.
It's the jury is still out on that.
There's a little bit to question, you know, what was she in fact wrong that time?
I don't know.
Well, see, then that leads to my weaknesses. I'm never right.
Yeah.
So my weakness is I just never right.
Yeah, that's true. You just keep talking to people. Sit there and look pretty and talk to people.
Biggest weakness. You probably know that answer.
He's very critical.
Oh, well, I guess there's still some of that military in me, right? I would say the biggest weakness is the desensitization I've had from my experiences. So I would say my biggest weakness is something I've also trying to work on the most is my empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of other military guys, if they're willing to admit this, aren't very good at empathizing with other people.
It's
right?
only other people you're close with, though.
Well, in general, too. Like, and it's part of my communication, the thing I've been working on since I got out and all that stuff. Part of communication is also learning to empathize with other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really easy for military guys to sit there and be like, well, you know, you're just being a victim and you're just a liar or, you know, just being stupid. Right. And you could have that mentality, but at the same time, it's on that same guy. It's easy to not empathize with them and not take a step back and be like, well, what are they going through? Why are they responding that way? Why does that person talk this way? Why are, you know, what's gone on in their life and what's kind of their story? Mm-hmm. And so I'm, you know, like anyone else, I can still be too critical and not really empathize with other people I'm, you know, let's say close with or whatever, or people I'm dealing with. And that is a huge weakness.
But at the same time, and this is something that one of our obstacles that we're constantly refining and trying to get through, and you can't avoid it. Like I talked about earlier, you're not going to avoid these big obstacles. These big obstacles are something you have to fight through and overcome and not just avoid. And it's not to his success. That weakness isn't always 100% weakness because he has high expectations, good, valuable expectations on the people he's closest to. So he understands that you're here at, you know, at a lower level, but I can see you here. I can see you rising above whatever it is that you're dealing and struggling with. Why can't you just get a rise above it? So he sees that and he expects things from his kids and from me and from our employees. It just, he doesn't quite get that past the frustration and empathizing with, okay, well, you're here now. Let's, you know, try to be a little bit less critical at the moment. Yeah. Right. So good and bad.
Yeah, and I can relate with that one because, you know, it's one of the things that's been so easy for me in my business is, you know, just being able to not make personal, you know, particular things that are happening in business where you know, it's like some people will take things personally, you know, the rejection and whatnot. And to me, it's just like, okay, whatever, and move on because I learned how to turn off that switch, but it's also learning how to, you know, sometimes turn that switch back on. And, you know, that's sort of been, you know, where I've had to relearn, you know, that, you know, especially when you're advising people about how to make their life better and you need to listen to what their story is and empathize a little bit. So you have to learn when to turn that switch on and off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of to wind out our time here today, have a interesting question that most of my guests end up dreading when I start asking it, but it's always fun. Tell us something that is true about you that almost nobody would agree with. Most people don't know.
Agree with.
What is true about you that people don't?
I'm always right. Just kidding. I don't know. That is a tough question. Yeah. True about me.
It's kind of that trivia question of what do people don't know about you, even your friends.
Yeah, I suck at trivia.
That they're about to find out.
Pressure.
Pressure's on.
The pressure.
Don't worry about this part. He's going to cut it out.
Yeah, I know.
Man, this is hurting our brains.
Yeah, you're so transparent. Everybody knows everything about you, right?
No. Oh, yeah, right. Of course.
Or we just don't know people. We're such hermits.
True about, well, I don't know if this is a good one, but it is one. I guess it's kind of, there's two things. I'm just thinking of two different scenarios, and they're all like, so I used to play basketball and I was really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the writing on the wall. I had a friend who ended up going to the NBA that I grew up playing basketball with. And when he grew to be 6'7", I saw the writing on the wall and decided, look, man, I am short and white and no one's going to put me on their team. Right. So I kind of gave up a little early on myself, but I can pick up a basketball and just crush it at any point in time. And it's kind of weird. Like I remember when I got to Afghanistan, there was a basketball hoop and I got a ball. Like I started playing ball for the first time in a couple years. And I don't know, I shot like 10 3-pointers in a row and I was like, wow, I can still play. So I don't know. That's one. I'm a good basketball player, I guess, that nobody really knows about. And I've always been good in school. I was like a 4.0 student. So that's one people always thought was weird.
Those are both lame.
Those are weird though, because they'd be like, assume that I suck at school because I play basketball and shoot guns. I don't know.
I love old musicals. Absolutely love them. Black and white movies. If I could go back to any point in time in history and relive life, and it would be like 1945. I would love it. That's something that a lot of people don't know about me. It's not embarrassing or anything, but it's better than what you said.
It is better.
He's obsessed with ice cream.
Oh, really?
Hey,
just kidding.
Here in Texas, we're all obsessed with ice cream. We're the home of Bluebell, so we have to be obsessed with our ice cream. Yeah, and Erik was the only Green Beret that actually had a 4.0. That's outstanding.
See, there you go.
He's a smart guy. Oh, that's something that a lot of people don't know about you.
Maybe I'm just a good test taker.
That probably is true.
Well, I obviously people need to be able to get a hold of you guys, for consult or whatever. What's a good way for them to get a hold of you? Good contact methods.
Well, email is probably the best. Rebecca's email is REBECCA, so Rebecca at greenledgercpa.com. And mine's Erik, ERIK, at greenledgercpa.com. You could, we're pretty easy to get a hold of. Find us on Facebook or anywhere and just message us, or message us on LinkedIn. Find us on LinkedIn. If somebody wants to call, that's their thing. They can call me. My direct line is 408-478-2745. And if somebody wants to call Rebecca, they can call her. Her number is 209-389-3322. So yeah, we're pretty easy to communicate with.
Outstanding. And so for the listeners that are in here today, certainly reach out to them with Green Ledger CPA, because that's going to be the difference between success and failure in your business, is having good team members CPAs are part of what I call the trifecta in business. You need a good CPA, good attorney, and good financial planner. And so that is one of the three legs of the stool that you need for your business. And so reach out to these guys, take advantage of their expertise and their knowledge, their willingness to help, and their desire to see you succeed. And so just reach out to them. And you heard it here. And like I say to everyone, first off, I want to say, thank you to both of you guys for coming on. And we will see you around the bend.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. You've been listening to Legacy Cast. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to come back next time as we speak with more top influencers, industry experts, and business owners from around the world.